料金は1100円です。電子マネー支払いをされる方はカードを
I didn't expect this view on the way. When I looked at the directions yesterday, it said you're going to go through Assel, and I didn't really click. Now, of course, it does. But yeah, this is a hugely volcanic area. I don't know why, but I just had it in my mind that I was going to be travelling deep down in some ravine in the forests on this journey today. But of course, this is a very volcanic part of Japan, so especially Kumamoto. So yeah, it's quite a surprise to get such a fabulous view. It's so easy with these monologues to go down a path of just being obtuse. One of the reasons I have ended up being so slow to release these Journey Down Japan videos is because I am naturally cautious of what I say. I don't like to rush into saying things that I haven't thought through. Likewise, I always try to cut through and make sense with simple thoughts. When I moved to Japan, the most common thing people said to me before and after arriving in 2020 was I was living the dream. When I looked at my initial circumstances that year, I struggled to feel it, to be honest. Minor niggles like my company not paying for my car in full as they had insinuated, the fine apartment but in a terrible location, but most importantly, I was very lonely. It was hard to reconcile this idea that I was living the dream. Trust me, there is a difference between vacationing somewhere and living somewhere. If you come on vacation to Japan, chances are the first time you'll go to Tokyo, Kyoto and Osaka. And if your Japanese is next to non-existent, the sheer volley of Japanese culture will assault and overwhelm your senses and leave you feeling exhilarated, understandably so. But when that situation is extended and when you start having to deal with everyday needs, some of that wonder begins to diminish. As the weeks turned into months, the crossroads outside my apartment, with traffic all day long, the pedestrian crossings bleep and bloop, the plywood factory belching out dust and fumes that I lived amongst became a little bit irritating. I had an intense sense of guilt that made me feel like I wasn't being grateful for where I was. Alongside, I was dealing with the emotions of approaching my late 30s, of having had a very haphazard path through life. I didn't really feel like I was living the dream, and the dream wasn't working out. And Iwate, to me at the time, seemed a million miles from the Japan that I had imagined. I was no idiot. I knew exactly what Iwate was like. After all, my number one choice was to live in the Tohoku region, of which Iwate Prefecture is a part of. In fact, when I applied to do this job, I didn't even indicate any cities because I didn't want to live in them. But for so long, I had this idea of living in Japan one day. But there was a large disconnect between the Japan of my imagination and the experience of the reality I was feeling. From a young age, I had read and hear about Japan, mostly through Superplay magazine, and the entire Japan was created in my imagination, from just a few column inches and the odd 2 by 1.5 inch photo. Then TV programs further fueled this Japan of my imagination, and not only could I see and experience it in my mind, I could feel it as well. But the reality was a disconnect, and somehow I had to rationalise this reality with my imagination. And it all comes down to perspective, how you choose to see things. But it wasn't easy. In my mind, I had built this incredibly cool, laid-back image of Japan. I would be strolling down a Harajuku side street with Ayumi Hamasaki blaring out on a hot summer's day in Tokyo, the heat from the sun beating down on concrete, and all that street scenery looking and feeling like Japan, ornamental pine trees peeking from Japanese-style front yards and sea-green wire fences. But the reality was staring at aisle after aisle of fabric conditioner under fluorescent strip lights in Tsuruha Drug, being none the wiser of what any of them were, and noticing that the tiled floor was beige and benign, with a little grout between each tile. Something was mumbled out disinterestedly over the PA system, and that I was also out of shampoo, and wondering, what does soap really taste like? And all that was playing out in my mind over the top of the irritating shop music on loop. The Japan of my imagination and the reality clashed so hard, but it was bound to be so. On the whole, many societies have gravitated towards the same way of living, and not unreasonably in the main, But it makes you wonder sometimes about the infinite ways in which we could live our lives, but instead we choose the path of least resistance and do it because it seems impossible to live any other way. It's as if there is only one reality out there, but I think reality is what you make of it, and is something that has to be struggled for. It's not a given. All things in life are perspective. How you deal with situations and circumstances determine outcomes and shape your reality. Going believing you are defeated or don't question received wisdom, then don't be surprised to be defeated or end up struggling against your nature. But struggle instead against the odds to carve out your own path, and you may be pleasantly surprised. Admittedly, I've yet to find Suruha drug that interesting, and the grout between the tiles of the beige floor is still there. But all of life around is somewhat changed because I realised I had to really try and be myself. Take hard decisions, earn less money, have less, but with that I got time and therefore more freedom to be myself. In Japan, I worked out I earn about £7.62 an hour before all the taxes and deductions. That's how much importance I have placed on having freedom over money. Some people believe that your fate is sealed in life, your genes will guide you down a predetermined path, and there is nothing you can do that will change it. I disagree so much. I think so many other things influence our outcomes in life, but the greatest power still resides within us to realise the dreams and ambitions that we have. There was a sketch in Jam, a black-humoured radio and then TV series from the minds of Chris Morris amongst many others, that featured a sketch where there was a man who would die should he experience the same thing twice because he was chronically bored. I wonder if the consumerist lifestyle has done something awful to the way that we consume experience. We shouldn't be consuming experience at all, but rather just letting it be. Life is not just a bucket list. Race around the world, check it all off, put it on Instagram and hope to dear God someone notices we exist, and it all happened by getting a like or two. What insanity, and that's just the surface. I realised that so much of what I considered that made me an adult was really more just the basis of assured knowledge about a routine and a place of some certainty within a society and culture. By moving myself to a society which I had basically zero connections with in reality, and a culture quite different from my own in many aspects, all that assured adult knowledge went out of the window. It was a bit like being a child again. Simple routine things like buying a stamp to send a letter, asking for a bag at the checkout became a bit of a task to say the least. Oh, is this the bit where we cross into Miyazaki? I think it is, folks. Miyazaki-ken, maybe. You never know. It could be. It could be. It could be. Oh, is that it there? Is that it there? That little sign? Oh. Don't know what that said. I think it keeps on changing is what it's saying. So I think this is Kumamoto. I think there'll be another little sign somewhere along here that tells us that it's changed once again. Oh, look at that, eh? Breathe it in, folks. Miyazaki Prefecture! We made it! That's awesome. Welcome to Miyazaki. Yay! Yokozo ne? Ah, we did it. We drove from Iwate to Miyazaki in a little K-car. Give or take 13 kilometres. That's 2,000 kilometres almost. Got a little way to go yet though. Probably about another 200 kilometres to go, so... Oh, it was quite emotional that moment. Oh, wonderful stuff. We actually made it. Well, feels like a whole new world. If you're wondering why I sort of kind of guessed where I was, it's because obviously I've got this paper map which I've looked at and obviously made a bit of a note of what's what. So, that was very kind of them. So, and I noticed on the map that it said that where there was that spiral ramp, that was where the prefectural boundary was. So, of course, as soon as I realised that I was at the spiral ramp as such, I thought, well, that has to be the border ahead. So that's how I know. Not psychic or clairvoyant in some way. If there are any qualities that will really help anyone who makes a significant move like this, it's patience and perseverance. The patience to see things that will come good, and the perseverance to keep trying. All of my original ideas of the future went out of the window when I came to Japan. I thought I was going to be doing pixel art animations green screened over scenes in Japan, showing the areas that I was visiting. But that evaporated, and the longer-term plan of becoming a manga artist, which was rooted in spending 2 to 3 years of doing the assistant language teacher thing, and then becoming good enough to go to university here and retrain, all of that went out the window. Looking back, it was madness. But again, I feel like I was living life through the lens of something like setting out a plan, because plans gave me something to aspire to, something to cling to believe in. Consequently, I was not actually appreciating the present. I was consuming life, and too fast at that. What about just sitting for a while, and not caring that I was letting time pass, allowing myself to not do all the things on my to-do list? I can just sit here and just be content to just be. But just being in isolation is hard when you're a sociable creature. Being unable to show my personality in Japan was crushing, because so much of it was tied up in being able to talk. And when almost nobody understood me, who are you really? I was just a mixture of body movements and noises. It's hard to live a dream when you feel viewed as this ambulatory noise box that occasionally flaps your hands and smiles like a goofball playing the stupid foreigner role that the teacher wants out of you. It would be cheaper for the Board of Education to hire a clown if that's what they really wanted. This isn't to say that people overlooked me or preferred not to engage with me on anything but a superficial level, or indeed saw me as stupid. Far from it. But so much interaction was almost like looking at a perfect speckless formica surface, benign, tasteless, there but unremarkable, because there was no immediate inherent meaning, like the eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Well, this rather nondescript looking place is where the journey has now clocked in 2,000 kilometres. Wow. That's quite some distance, isn't it? The turning point came when I began to start appreciating some basic experiences as my Japanese began to improve. This is part of the struggle after all. This in turn made my relationships to the schools I worked at much stronger and much more meaningful. I'm going to say that on the whole, I have been able to become much more myself in class with the kids, and I think it's for everyone's benefit. But I had to persevere to get beyond those teachers that either didn't want me in class or they wanted me to play the part of the pig-shit foreigner who knew nothing about Japan. Both those experiences dented me because I didn't feel like I was being able to be myself or was playing a role that was very belittling to me. As an aside, and I don't want to labour this sets up an incredibly bad example for the young kids, where they are getting the impression that all foreigners are thick idiots that are university bikurishita, surprised, at something like Four Seasons or sushi. Seriously, JTEs, Japanese Teachers of English, Stop this. Use this for genuine cultural exchange and use our ways to inform the students subliminally about how other cultures react to things. It will help with learning a language in the long run because it takes a deeper route beyond let's English. But I digress. I kept trying and I didn't give up. I began to work with JTEs that actually wanted me to be myself, and this was hugely motivating and made me want to work harder at the job because I felt like I had an investment in these kids and their education. I know I can't change the Japanese approach to English education, but I can find my little place within it where I can be useful and carve out that niche. Once I had established a bit of a purpose in being in the schools, I felt like the kids wanted me to be around them to help them. I felt much better about the job. It made me feel so much more happier. With that, I was able to start looking forward to doing things after school too. The simple life in Iwate made me appreciate the scenery and nature and much, much more. By being able to go out running within it and eventually skating too. Once again, I was just being. I was using all of my human ability to just be. I wasn't just this biological machine for carrying my brain around. I was engaging with all parts of myself to be myself. I also did get that manga story sorted, Future Saviors, and really so much of what I felt within that first year of Japan is what informed the story, along with so many other things that I have learned in my haphazard path through life and felt for so long that I wanted to find a way to express. By just starting, it has made me feel so much better, as it's like a pressure release valve has been opened. Truth be told, I have no idea what the future holds for me, because I won't be an assistant language teacher forever, that's for sure. But I do know that life really is what you make of it. But sometimes it takes a big effort to shift out of a certain mindset or situation to be able to really make the most of it. If you shift the mindset, you can change your world and reality. I'm far from being at a resolved place or where I can just let things hum along in life. But I often wonder and think, is anybody ever really though? Somehow over the next couple of years, I've got to navigate a way into hopefully getting Future Saviors published, or some form of path where I can eventually spend at least some of my time working in illustration, along with other things like maybe teaching Japanese. With the time I have had, I have been cleared of the confusion I talked about at the start of this set of monologues on this journey. In a way, that clarity allows me a greater chance of living the dream. I know, for example, I am not at my best when constrained to one role within one company, turning up to sit at the same desk job 5 days a week. By doing so, so much of my human spirit is limited, and I have so much more to give than just that. I was not put on this earth to wear a cheap suit from Aoki. Of course, who knows how long that future in Japan will be. But I know now that I don't need the pressure of feeling like I am somehow not measuring up to living the dream. I've just got to keep on making the most of everything in life and make decisions that lead to me enjoying it over anything else. As one of my friends Paul said to me, it seems like the journey itself is the destination, and that is it. I will never reach the destination in life because it's truly the journey itself that I love most in life. I'm trying hard now not to seek destinations, but just to be in the moment, and in that, I think you live the dream.
Mind's made up. There is no doubt. I'm punching in paint and checking out the things I've seen here. They weigh me down. Now to make
little garden, indeed it is.
Slight right, then your destination will be on the left. In 200 meters, turn right.
Parking open. So maybe it's this parking here. (2,161 kilometers).